There we go. Now I'm free. All right. So today we're going to talk about generosity. And I want us first to think about, so when you hear the word generosity, who comes to mind? Who is someone in your life who for you embodies generosity? Family. Who was that? Jamie.
My aunt, uncles, and my other extended family that I don't say, and church family.
What makes them generous for you?
They help me with everything that all my life they've been there for me, like every step of the way. And my church family's been here through everything with me too. And he told me I should come out to the church, and now I'm here as a church member.
Absolutely. So this family is there for you when you need them, and they encourage you. Who else is generous? We're going to talk about financial generosity, but that doesn't have to be that kind.
The whole church is.
Say more, Sue.
Going to block parties, bring town outreach, all of that. That's generosity.
That is an act of generosity. So for those of you who don't know, let's see, how many weeks ago now? 2?
1.
1. Depending on who you're talking to. 1 to 2 weeks ago.
Last Saturday.
We had a big block party. We've been doing this for 3-4 years now. And the money that we raise goes to an organization in our community who helps folks who are experiencing homelessness. So that's definitely an act of generosity. Who else embodies generosity for you? This could be a friend, family member, this could be somebody in here. God. Jamie's on a roll today. Charlene.
My Brian.
You're Brian. Who's your Brian?
My Brian is the other half of me who I couldn't be without.
Yeah. Why does he embody generosity to you?
The suffering that he goes through for the past 8 years with his Agent Orange illness, and yet he always tries to smile, and no matter who comes along in need, he's there to offer his assistance, be it financial, emotional support, whatever.
Right. So whenever he sees a need, he tries to offer something for them, even though he himself suffers. Yeah. Anybody else? Parents. Say more, Tasha.
My parents, anytime I need help, I need something done in the house, I need a kid picked up or something, my parents
They're there. So whenever you have a need, whether it be kids, what was the other one? Somebody picked up,
a problem in the house.
problem in the house,
Fix,
something to fix, they're there.
everything.
Drop everything, yeah. So whatever they're doing, they're coming there to be with you, help you out. So in our letter today, we've moved on. For the past couple of weeks, we've heard a section of the letter where Paul was trying to convince the Corinthians to kind of look past some arguments that they've had between Paul and this particular Christian community. Well, now he's done convincing them, and he's moved on to talking about a different subject. And this subject is our favorite subject, money. So Paul is talking to the Corinthians about a particular project. So before the church was organized like it is now, there were no synods or conferences or denominations or anything like that. So there was no way for churches, individual congregations, to be in community with one another. And so the way that Paul tried to foster relationships between the different churches that he founded was by engaging them all in a common project. And this project was to raise money for the first church, the first group of followers of Jesus in Jerusalem. And so all the different communities that he would go to, where he would start a congregation, he would ask them to contribute to the first church back in Jerusalem. And in the letter today, Paul is trying to draw attention to another community in Macedonia who gave very generously to this cause. And this in spite of the fact that they suffered a great deal. This community experienced a lot of persecution. And yet still they wanted to give really generously to this cause. And so Paul's trying to draw on their example to encourage the Corinthians to do this, to exhibit the same kind of generosity. And Paul is also, in this part of the letter, trying to redefine what generosity actually is. You see, in the ancient world, generosity was a way of kind of establishing your place in the hierarchy, the social hierarchy of the day. So people who were at the top, who were rich and powerful, they could afford to give lots of stuff. They could afford to give many gifts. And whenever they would give a gift to somebody, that would underline for the whole community, these are people who have a lot and are at the top and are wealthy. And of course, at the other side of the scale were folks who lived in poverty and had nothing, and they had no choice but to accept gifts. And so when they would receive somebody else's generosity, it would only underline their place at the bottom in the community. And this is not what Paul wanted Christian generosity to be about. So if we're honest with ourselves, this kind of generosity still exists today. It's not just part of the ancient world. If you think of millionaires or billionaires when they give these great big gifts to this special particular cause, it really underlines the fact that, wow, they have so much to give. And they're at the top with lots of wealth and power. And then folks who live in poverty for whatever reason, and they have to go to the food pantry, they have to get their clothes at Salvation Army, they have to ask for help when they can't meet their rent, they really are forced into a position of receiving gifts from others, because it's the only choice they have to survive. And it's very easy for people in that position to feel kind of inferior, because they're always on the receiving end. And so Paul doesn't want this to be what Christian generosity is about. And so that's why he has that line in there. You know, you're not picking up the slack while other people are taking it easy. Everybody is in this together. We're not giving generously because we're at the top or we're at the bottom, but because we're all in the same position. We're all in a position of receiving from God. Because in reality, we're all sinners. We've talked about this a couple times. And we all need this forgiveness and grace from God. And so we all have to be in a position of receiving from God. And the reason that we give, the reason for Christian generosity, Paul is arguing, is because we want others to experience this second chance that we ourselves have received. We want others to experience this new life. We want others to have abundant life. And this is why we do things like the block party ministry, because we know that it will help others feel good, that they're cared about, and that we want them to have another chance. But there's always that question, isn't there? This is how the question sounds. Can we keep it up? Do you know what I mean when I say that question? Generosity takes a lot of effort, doesn't it? And the question becomes, can I keep this up long term? And I've heard this question here at St. John's where we've thought, you know, wow, we've done a lot of ministry, it's a lot of effort. Can we keep it up? Think about that question. Kind of embedded in that question is falling into that worldly view of generosity, which is we're comparing ourselves to what we've done in the past. Or maybe we're comparing ourselves to what we see other churches doing. And it starts to become all about our social standing again, right? What other people think of us. If we're not generous enough, if our ministry isn't successful, will people not like us? Will people not think we're as great a church? So it's real easy when you're being generous to start to think about how other people view your generosity and to compare yourself to others and to start to feel like you can't do it all. And so we're going to watch another video today where Pastor Nadia Bolz-Weber, who we've been listening to for the past few weeks, is going to talk about how sometimes we like to think we can do it all. And it's really just not possible or healthy. And so in this video, so I prepared you for 4 weeks. Pastor Nadia Bolz-Weber, she is a pastor in the Lutheran Church, and she's known for her history with addiction. And when she became clean, she felt the call to ministry, and she's ministered throughout her career to folks who have traditionally felt kind of left out in the church, like people who have experienced addiction or like members of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender communities. And she's become famous because of her real down-to-earth, practical way of looking at theological and scriptural matters. And part of her character is sometimes she uses curse words. And so far, we haven't had to worry about that. But today, for the very first time, there is a curse word in the video. So, I have done this, my fellow Christians. We have two versions. One where you can hear the curse word, and one where it's muted. And I want you all to be very honest with me, because I want people to be comfortable. This is worship. We want to respect each other. Is anybody uncomfortable with hearing the curse word? She doesn't use it in a vulgar way, but it is in there. Is anybody uncomfortable? It's part of what says Tasha. Tasha has some input, but you have your own feelings. Are we okay?
Sure.
All right. You ready, Ron? Okay.